Next item.
Next item, citizen participation. Citizens wishing to address the board on agenda and non-agenda items for action who are signed in by 7:10 p.m. by submitting a blue card to the secretary may speak at this time. The board may not be in a position to respond to non-agenda items. Therefore, speakers should not anticipate an immediate response to their comments or questions. For the benefits of all concerned, please do not mention the names of students or school district employees. Please keep your comments as brief as possible. The board president reserves the right to limit the times. I don't have any blue cards for agenda items, but I have 2 for non-agenda items. And the first one is from Molly Lukman from Dearborn. Would like to address the board about the Dearborn child bride article.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello, my name is Molly Lookman. I'm a Dearborn resident who found the article published by the Weekly Standard to be deeply disturbing. I've worked closely for several years with Dr. Maleko and someone else who was referenced, one of the staff members referenced in the article. And I can vouch that both the Dearborn staff that were mentioned in the article genuinely care about the community. However, that's not enough. The incident proved that it's not enough. I'm not here to roast anyone at the stake. The objective of voicing our concerns is to impact effective change so a disaster like this does not affect the kids and families again. With that said, I'd like to remind you that as the professionals entrusted with leadership roles, you are the gatekeepers of the families and the kids of our community to the rest of the world. You need to become more nuanced in the issues impacting the community you serve. With the current political climate in our country today, you need to recognize that Dearborn is a city specifically targeted by the right wing and conservative media. The community you serve will continue to be targeted by these malicious intent to exploit local issues and use them to drive forth their divisive agendas. You lead a community of unique demographic. Dearborn is the Arab and Muslim capital of the U.S. and will continue to be targeted, and we need, as a community, reassurance that you will do your due diligence in protecting our families for being exploited for propaganda, ever again. We also need to know that Dearborn Public Schools will follow through on having that article withdrawn and to issue a specific statement making it clear that Dearborn is not a city in which right-wing conservatives can conveniently come in to exploit and perpetrate unfounded stereotypes. This kind of narrative is extremely dangerous to our community and to our students, and it's divisive and dehumanizing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Lang.
I'd like to comment to the speaker. I'd like to say that she's right in that I believe that we are often targeted by people who already have a political agenda. Mm-hmm. This newspaper is a known conservative newspaper. You can see the slant in their story, and there are factual inaccuracies in the story. And I believe that the Dearborn Public Schools can't do anything to have the newspaper article retracted. The best that we can do, which Dr. Maleko has attempted to do, and the rest of us can do as well, and the community also, is to celebrate the great things that we have going on. So I'd like to say, this article says that nobody is aware of this. We're aware of what's going on in our community. One organization that's made really terrific efforts is Yemeni American Benevolent Association. I've watched over the last at least 15 years as they've increased the number of scholarships that they're giving. I know the case at Edsel Ford pretty well because my sons and daughter went there. And I'd like to congratulate them for doing that. I see every year they have a scholarship dinner coming up. Normally it's during the summer. And every year we see greater and greater numbers. I was very impressed this graduation to see the number of young women taking spots, the places that they're going. So we know what our community is doing. But I do agree with the speaker. We have to speak out to counter. We've had a lot of people use us as a backdrop for their own propaganda. They've said things that are so patently untrue that we need to speak out and say, this is not true. I mean, I've gotten emails that ask if Dearborn has street signs in Arabic, not English. And I say, go on Google Maps and look for yourself. But certain media outlets will put forward lies that there are no-go zones in Dearborn or whatever. They're not true. We need to say they're not true, and we need to say that our community is doing great things, and that's what I think the message should be, and I appreciate the speaker coming forward. Thank you.
Trustee Barry.
I echo Trustee Lane's comments. I did see this article over the social media a couple of days ago and did take a look at it. I like printing things so I can read them. Like you said, when something is an article like this that we find so troublesome, we have to speak out. In this article, it says that the Yemeni American community does not value education for their young ladies. That couldn't be any further from the truth. The Yemeni community values education as a whole. Yemeni American community values education as a whole. And what I've seen, just like Trustee Lane said, the last few years, their young ladies are doing phenomenal. They're going on to do, they're trying to stereotype here that, we're plucking these young ladies out of, that's wrong. That's bad journalism. I found this article also troublesome, and we will reach out. I know Dr. Malik already attempted. All of us will reach out and see what we can do about this article.
Trustee Hammoud.
And I think it all goes to the propaganda that Trustee Lane talked about as well. In terms of these young women getting an education, getting scholarships like we've seen today, getting accepted to some of the best universities and colleges around the country, those are not the stories that make the news. And those are not the stories that the media outlets or certain agendas want to portray. I think it is up to us, though, to make sure that we do put those stories out there, that we continue to make sure that we give everyone in this district the best education to go out there, because that is the best way to break these stereotypes. But I do agree with both Trustee Lane and Trustee Barry and the speaker that came up. I think that these children are our children. We have a responsibility in terms of protecting them. Their reputation is our reputation. Dearborn Public Schools was mentioned in this article, and it falls on our shoulders to make sure that we are out there combating this and it has to be a collective effort as well for it to work.
Trustee Petlicoff.
I'm in the dark about the article. I haven't seen what was sent to us, so I haven't read it yet. But I will say that one of my concerns is, even with the best of intentions, we've had a couple of school personnel interviewed and quoted, I guess, in this article from the sound of it. I know that we all try to be very careful when we have these kinds of interviews and that we try to vet the people who are doing it, but somehow this one slipped by in some fashion or another. But since I haven't read it, I can't really comment. I just want to make sure that, since I can't comment about what was said, that we continue to be proactive in as we are the gatekeepers for our school community, that we are doing our best to be vigilant about making sure that we don't help contribute to these types of stories.
Yes.
If at the very least we are not part of the story because we have given an opportunity to be quoted and even misquoted, so that we're very careful and cautious moving forward when anybody asks to have. I know I was burned a long time ago, many years ago, where things were taken out of context and a lot of misquotes occurred. That sometimes it's better to just say no if you're not absolutely 100% certain how that article is going to play out. And if we have no control over it and the publishing of it, then we might want to think twice before we contribute to it.
Mm-hmm. Is the policy when somebody, and just a quick question as to the policy.
Sure.
So if a news reporter was to approach a staff member at Dearborn Public Schools, for example, are they free to just give a statement, or is there a policy to where it goes to David, for example?
It goes to David, but I'll just explain this situation, and I was bothered by it as well, because I think the intent of the reporter was disingenuous. There is a vetting process, and we've had, whether they're conservative or not, we've had other conservative groups like the Mackinac Center that have really publicized positive articles about the work we're doing. So they had contacted my office, and David vets it out. You know, it's the process he calls, and basically it was just talked about that they wanted to talk about the positive things that we're doing to support our immigrants with their education. Well, I had just been at Salina at the same time to do this Color in Colorado, which the board is aware it's a video. It's very positive. They were bragging about the things that were coming out. So we thought it was connected to that. And I actually was interviewed for about 25 minutes. Honestly, the comment that they made one comment of a quote from me, but it was like the last thing. All the positives, because when I'm talking about Salina, guess what? I talk with pride from my years there, and I was very, the great things, and I support everything the trustee said, but I was bragging about Salina. I was talking about all the things, the refugee programs, all the things. Not one of those things was published. It was one side comment that I actually thought was odd, and it wasn't even the reason why the reporter had portrayed that they were interviewing. So it did go through a vetting. I think in this case, we now know that this type of group is, you know, off our list, and we'll have to just be very cautious. But I can say that the staff member that, you know, spoke to me today and yesterday was very upset and said she was misquoted. I can't say I was misquoted. My quote was there, but it wasn't the intent of why the reporter you know, came to talk to me. So if I'm talking for 25 minutes and you put a last minute thing that has nothing to do with why you said you were coming to interview, obviously it was not forthright. So we did, that's why I was upset too, and I got an email yesterday. It was more of a positive, but with concern from a community member, and so we got on top of it today with David and we called and we left a message, and we haven't gotten a return call. Fortunately, we can't control, you know, the press and what they do, but we can, as Trustee Berry and others, we can express our concern, and that's what I do too when I get these other calls or comments that come in along the lines of what Trustee Lane was saying. Dispel them right away, and those inaccuracies and ignorance that is out there. So we value the community, and when I was interviewed, I was bragging about that community, but guess what? None of that made the paper. So we apologize for any you know, part that we may have had, and again, I know that the staff member that was quoted was very upset because felt like it was a very disingenuous intent.
We do have another card on a similar subject, but I want to go ahead and take a step further about our staff, our employee that was quoted. I hope she moves past this, because I've known this person for a long, long time. I am very familiar with her work. She has saved families, saved lives, saved young ladies, saved young men, with no doubt in my mind, this is not the right representation for the staff member. Now, this article is just garbage. I'm gonna say it the way it is. It's just garbage. But I hope to God that the staff member, and I'm sure with your help and everybody else's help, supports this is not who this person is. I know this person. I value her service. I'm thankful for her service to Dearborn Public Schools.
I second that.
Good.
Definitely, this is not reflective of
Right.
who she is, what she has done for this district, what she continues to do for the students, and her belief in every single one of the students. When I read this article, I honestly knew that she was misquoted, because knowing that person, you would know that that is a misquote.
So we do need to communicate with her that she has the full support of the
Right.
Board of Trustees for her work.
And I welcome the community to reach out to us if they're not aware of this person, and I'm willing, I'm sure we all are, not to defend, but to explain all this. You know, you can't just use one article that, anyways.
That mischaracterizes
And it was.
the community.
Mischaracterized.
Yeah.
So, and that's just the word for us. Will be, you know, with our vetting too, we'll be a lot, you know, we'll try to be, we are very cautious though. Sometimes, you know, and again, most reporters though, they want to be upfront and honest, because guess what? In most cases, then you develop a good rapport, and then when other stories or information, you have that in this
This is a
case.
different time and age
Yeah.
now, I
This
think,
is a
and,
different time and age, you're
yeah.
100% correct. That's exactly what I was just thinking, as
We-
Dr. Mike was speaking.
But we will ask you to contact that teacher.
Yes.
Let her know what we're thinking.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Our
Thank you.
Our second card is from Ms. Sahar Abdullah, also from Dearborn. She would like to talk to the board about the article written about the Yemeni girls on behalf of DPS, Dearborn Public Schools.
Good evening,
Good
everyone.
evening.
My name is Sahar Abdullah, and I'm a Yemeni mother and mother of a 15-year-old sophomore at Southport High School. I'm a nurse, and I'm an entrepreneur. And like you said, I'm here to speak to you about the article that portrayed the Yemenis in such a negative light. I did speak to, and I know that you said no names should be mentioned, but to drive my point across, I do have to mention the names.
No, you can't.
Please
The
don't.
social worker in question, I did speak to her yesterday.
Thank you.
Then I am going to speak to somebody privately after this, because you do have to understand what was quoted. It's not necessarily that people were just misquoted. There were quotes directly related to child brides. And when speaking to the social worker yesterday, she did swear to me that, because I do know her from the days that my son was in school. She wouldn't necessarily visit my son, but I would run into her in the office. She's a friendly person, and I know that she's a caring person. However, people do mess up, and she messed up in this instance. Not only her, but the director of the ELL board at Southport also messed up. And another principal at a different high school that I will not mention, out of respect for the board, also had made some quotes. When I spoke to the social worker, like I said, she did tell me that she was misquoted, and she believed it to be a commentary on Yemeni refugees. Two things. There are no Yemeni refugees. The United States has not accepted any Yemeni refugees and does not plan on accepting any Yemeni refugees now or in the near future. So I reread the article, and I realized that she absolutely was not telling me the truth. The claims that she and DPS were tricked by the reporter has no basis, as there are many quotes from the Dearborn Public School officials and employees addressing the issue of Yemeni child brides. Everybody that was quoted in the article was of non-Yemeni descent. And this saddens me extremely, as I know that DPS houses many Yemeni children, teachers, administrators, social workers, counselors, and so many more. Why were they not interviewed or asked to represent their own people and speak on their narrative? Who allowed all the non-Yemeni people to speak on behalf of the Yemeni people when there are so many Yemeni women that could have been interviewed, that could have spoken for themselves? What expertise or qualifications do all these employees have? And why are they found to be so much more qualified than all the DPS Yemeni female employees? How is this article supposed to benefit our girls? And now they are nationally known as child brides and will be picked on. Now I have to look at my nieces and teach them how to defend themselves from the stigma. We already have so many things, so many problems that we have to deal with as covered Yemeni females. We have to deal with it from in work, in society, and this just added to that burden. Furthermore, the article was published by the Weekly Standard. The Weekly Standard is a conservative right-wing magazine, and this is something that should have been looked into. We as a community as the Yemeni community, work tirelessly and have worked tirelessly and will continue to do so to build ourselves and the DPS brand, and we do so with love and compassion. Yemeni women have a narrative, and they should have been allowed to speak on it. Even those that marry young are still able to obtain high degrees. They still obtain commendable positions with high-paying salaries due to the bedrock that is the family support that they have, that only exists, or mostly exists, in Yemeni families. I had extracted comments and quotes by the DPS staff to further prove that this piece was done on Yemeni child bride, and they were aware of it. And even if they believed it to be done for refugees, they were asked questions about Yemeni child brides, something that they should have not addressed at all, because they're not experts on it. There are no facts, no data, no statistics. The picture that was portrayed was of Yemeni American girls in Hamtramck, and under the caption says, "A protest against political and religious extremism," which is a false point. In the article, the child bride is highlighted as Yemeni. The aspiring student that is highlighted in the article is Lebanese. The Lebanese student stated, and I quote, "She was Yemeni. They always do that very young," referencing child bride. One of the ELL teachers, whose name I will not state, but I will address it to you after in private, stated, "Many of them, quote, just go off the grid," unquote. Again, quote, "They drop out of high school. It is like they're under the radar here. Nobody knows they exist. Sometimes they go to Yemen for the summer, get married over there, and when they come back, nobody knows they're here," end of quote. What does it say about the Dearborn Public School District? That your students disappear and you do not know what happens to them? What does it say about the teachers? This particular teacher stated in the article that her student was gone for about a month before she started investigating. A month. The article states it takes months before they realize a student is missing. What if these students are injured on their way to school and during the day nobody inquires because they're assuming, oh, she's a child bride. That's why she didn't show up. The social worker stated she has heard of girls getting married between the ages of 15 and 17 to their first cousins. She also stated that, quote, "Marrying young, it is a tradition for the Yemeni. It's to preserve the family, to keep it. They feel secure that this is the right way to do it." This tells me that she was asked about marrying young child brides, and she addressed it, she responded. If this was really an inquiry or a commentary about refugees, about helping immigrants, no question of marriage would have popped up. She also emphasized that she was the interventionist who tracked down the girls and talked to parents about the importance of education. Furthermore, there was also emphasis that despite the school's efforts, child marriage ends girls' education. Another teacher also stated the Yemeni community has found ways around the system, either by homeschooling the girls or sending them to Yemen to marry, which is perhaps why Superintendent Maleko doesn't frequently hear about Jasmine, the girl that had supposedly disappeared due to child marriage. The social worker stated, quote, "This trust that exists between Yemeni families and the school district plays a key role in helping change traditional social norms in the community, albeit slowly," end of quote. She also noted that she pushes parents to encourage their daughters, not just their sons, to attend college. Quote, "I would tell them she needs to be educated, not just married and raising a family, so she can depend on herself financially, instead of waiting on a man and his money." This is not helping, this is no way helping immigrants or refugees. This is all about child brides. I don't believe for a second that they were not interviewed about child brides and getting married at such a young age for the Yemeni community. All parents have made extreme sacrifices to provide the best possible education for their children, and especially the girls. My father had a dream of educating his daughters, not the boys. He didn't care about educating the boys as much as he did the girls, because he didn't want his girls to end up just doing anything. And his dream came true. All three of his daughters are very successful. The social worker also noted that she has worked in the school district for over 24 years, but only in the last 10 years did she start seeing Yemeni women pursuing higher education. I graduated 18 years ago. And again, she is taking credit for Yemeni women going to college. Taking this credit from families, from Yemeni families, is not only selfish, it is unethical. And the director of the ELL board at Edsel, said it was common for school officials to call Yemeni parents to find out where their daughters were and why they were missing. She also notes that the issue of child bride is less common due to the open lines of communication between DPS and the Yemeni community. She also noted that DPS respects Yemeni culture, but it will not stop school officials like Bazzi Gates from speaking against norms that limit girls' educations. The same director showed the author the peacocks, and this one really got to me. She showed the author the peacocks, and she said they've been here for about 10 to 12 years, as long as the Yemenis have. Do you agree with this, that this is okay behavior from your employees, from your staff, to compare the Yemeni people to peacocks? It's dehumanizing, to say the least, and humiliating. She also stated girls in Yemen don't have much an opportunity, something that should not be discussed if you were talking about what you're doing for the refugees. And that girls here now are very competitive and they're competing with the boys. What does it matter that they're competing with the boys? Why not just work hard and aspire to become what you want? Why couldn't they have mentioned that instead? The same director also confirmed to the author that only 10 to 12 years ago did Yemeni women start going to college. I graduated college 13 years ago. And I would have graduated sooner if I was older. Again, I am appalled at the shamelessness of everyone who was involved in this article. I am requesting that you rectify this wrong and that justice be served to everyone involved. These are your children. These are your girls. They're our girls. And we cannot just stand by and watch people come in and serve their own propaganda and continue to hurt us because we're already a hurting society. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, just a
Trustee
brief
Hamwood,
comment,
go ahead.
because, well, I want to thank the speaker for reading that and giving us a closer look at the article. And I think that this raises some serious concerns in terms of how we are handling these interviews. I think that we need to talk about our process. Who is the person that is writing the story? I would like to see a process in which we see questions ahead of time, because if this question was about taking a closer look at the article as well, it's prevalent that this is about Yemeni girls in specific, and I'd like to see us more inclusive as to who we are directing these questions to. And I think if we had these questions ahead of time, then maybe we could have done what would make sense in terms of, that's why we have a diverse school staff here. They shouldn't be here just as, doing just the works in the classrooms. They are here representing the community, and we speak about certain issues through them. That's what makes us a diverse district, and I think that this could be rectified in a process. In the future, hopefully, maybe we can get the questions ahead of time. That would help us answer better and forward these questions to someone who knows more about the issue and the situation. Because it sounds like maybe we didn't get the questions ahead of time, who chose which students to talk to. This article not only portrays our community in a bad light, but what this article really does is that it causes divides within our own community, especially as to the section. First, the entire article does cause divides within our own community with different sects of our community, and that's why every single one of us should be more careful. This doesn't only put us in a bad light, it's putting our own community in terms of a Lebanese student being interviewed about a Yemeni student. These are deep issues, and this article speaks to issues that we should be combating here. I hope that that we do review the process in which these interviews are being made.
Okay,
Yeah,
good
we
comment.
can definitely do that, yeah.
Yeah, very important comment.
Can I just add, though, that more in what was said, and appreciate it, Trustee Hammoud, that when the questions came to me, again, they were 20 minutes to 25 minutes about the positive things we're doing in the district, and none of that was, it was one side end, quote. But I do agree with you. We'll work with Mr. Mustard and come up with a process of, looking through some of the questions or however it may be so that people are comfortable. And it's very unfortunate, and, we'll do that to protect our students, to protect those that are out there, our community. Again, apologize to those out there. We're upset about it as well, and that's why we contacted the editor, and we're going to follow up with them. Unfortunately, we can't control them, but we can do some of the things that you mentioned through vetting, and we'll do that moving forward.
Trustee Tetlichkoff?
Well, it's not only vetting. I'm like I said, I haven't read the article yet, so I'm kind of in the dark about all that was said and who said and how many people were interviewed. But from what I've heard from this young woman who just spoke now, has me quite alarmed by the fact that the people who were being interviewed didn't catch on, and it didn't dawn on them to say, hey, wait a minute, this seems to be taking a turn in the interests of your article that's away from what I thought I was going to be interviewed for, and put a halt to it. So what I would like to see as well, which is what I was trying to get at about the vetting of these things and how do we go about it, and I do like the idea, ask for the questions and tell people, if you want to write an article about us, we need to see it first. But the other thing is that we need to get people into the room, our own staff, and say, look, if you're approached, we need to have a seminar training. Yes. If questions start to go in this direction, this is how you end the interview, or this is who you refer the interviewer to, instead of just free-forming the answers to somebody, thinking you're doing. I'm not saying, I can't say what their motivations were for why they answered and continued to answer, because I haven't read it, so I'm not going to comment on that. But quite frankly, when people get into these situations where they're on a phone call and somebody's asking them a bunch of questions and they're just kind of going with the flow, I would like to think that they would have started to say, something doesn't feel right here. This isn't what I thought this was going to be about, and somehow worked themselves out of that interview. And we need to train people how to do that, so that it doesn't end up going in such a direction. I'm not worried as much about the harm to the school community as much as to our individual community members, and the hit that they're going to take in trying to explain to their family members and their immediate friends about why. Now, I don't know how widespread this thing is read, and whether most of it's going to be, an out-of-state kind of experience, and that a lot of people around here aren't going to be aware of it. But quite frankly, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that it was allowed to happen. I think that we really need to do something to apologize to the Salina community, since that it appears, now like I said, I haven't read the article, but that appears who they were focused on, amongst others in the Yemen community around town, Hamtramck or wherever else they might reside. But I think we need to make a personal apology and appearance to that community, and let them know that we are that this can't happen again. Not only to them, but to anybody else in our community who might be vulnerable, be it an ethnic group or any other community member.
So could we ask the policy committee to review the board policies relative to how we communicate with the news media and any other kind of media? And could we possibly have a report from the superintendent about what is our process right now, and so that we could look at it and see if we think it's appropriate.
Sure.
Okay?
Absolutely.
And
Is
I
that
want to know
reasonable?
if those girls were actually interviewed on our school property. Were they interviewed on our school property?
No, we're not aware of any students or anything. We wouldn't authorize that, so I'm not aware of any of that. I'll have to get back to you as far as how they got with the students. David, are you familiar? No?
It
Okay.
looks like they're adult students in the ESL class.
Okay.
Just glancing at the article, I mean, I haven't looked at it extensively, but
But it's.
I have to read for that detail, too.
Yeah, I'd like to know that.
Sure.
But
If
it
they
does
were
strike me that this is a policy issue about how
This
people
is-
across the district communicate with media.
Yeah, this
So
is
that we don't
definitely a
have
policy
cross
issue.
purposes here, and we get the questions to the specialists who can answer the questions appropriately.
Every interview, every school employee that approaches or is asked something by the media, we have to realize you are representing the district as a whole.
Absolutely.
Because Dearborn Public Schools is, that's, at the end of the day, that's who's being portrayed. And you are speaking on behalf of the entire district. I know at my job, I can never talk to the media. And if somebody from the media does ask me a question about my specific case, I refer it to our media person who can answer because of what's at stake here. And this is a prime example of that.
Yeah, this is why David does not sleep at night. Because it ends up in his desk most of the time, and I think that's appropriate.
Obviously, there's a breakdown in that process, though.
I agree.
And something's got to be done about that, and I think that we should take that up at our next policy
Okay.
meeting.
Dr. Mead, I think it's a great idea to visit the policy. I know I was misquoted about 15 years ago. I learned my lesson, just like Trustee Hamud said. When I get a phone call, and I'm the lucky one, I get a lot of phone calls, I tell them, send me the questions. I'm more than happy to send them back to you. I am very thankful to both speakers, especially thankful to the second speaker, because I will go back and reread the article, and I will keep your thoughts in mind when I'm reading. So thank you very much.
Next item, please.
Approval of minutes. Approval of minutes of the following Dearborn Board of Education meeting. Building and Site Committee meeting, June 11th, 2018, Board Report 17-134. Policy Committee meeting, June 11th, 2018, Board Report 17-135. Regular P through 12 meeting, June 11th, 2018, Board Report 17-136. Make any necessary corrections and move approval of these minutes. That's a recommended action.
So
So-
moved.
Second. Trustee Lane, do you have any comments?
No corrections.
not always, no
I know, I
comment.
was just anticipating, that's all, because usually I move to the next item. Okay, so
Thank
it's
you.
been moved and it's been supported. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed, say nay. It's unanimous. So, we're to special reports.
Next item is special reports. First one is Dearborn Education Foundation. Dr. Glenn Maleko.
Miss Chastity Townsend's going to come up for the Ed Foundation.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
For those of you that don't know me, I'm Chastity Townsend, and I am your current Executive Director of the Dearborn Public Schools Education Foundation. So I want to share with you all some things that have been going on within the foundation. We have a wonderful board who is dedicated in moving the foundation forward and have great ideas and trying to help us all raise some extra dollars to help support the school district. So this last year, 2017-2018 school year, we raised $273,731. Our total expenses, including the grants that we've given back to the district and scholarships, totals $183,000. We have impacted 28 schools this year with giving back to the schools and the teachers who have asked for classroom needs and wants that they need for their classrooms to help supplement. When we're continuing to grow our events every year, we're outgrowing our venues, and we're looking at new venues so that we can continue to move forward and grow and bring in more money. And we also are looking to bring in a couple new fundraisers this year. One will be a platform off of our website for our teachers to use, And another one we're working with the school district on that I don't really want to reveal yet. So that is it for my report, but I just want to start being more active with you guys and letting you know what we're doing and what's going on, because it is a partnership, the Dearborn Public Schools and the foundation. My office is here. I work very closely with a lot of Dr. Maleko's staff and making sure that we're funding items that align with the school district. So thank you. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Trustee Petlishkoff?
Well, let Trustee Lane go first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think you had your hand up.
Yes, I did. Just a quick question. I looked at the website. I really appreciate having the historic information on grants that have been awarded. Thank you for putting that up. And I saw that you have the board of directors on there with our own Mr. Thorpe as representing this board. But I didn't see on there your bylaws, your governance documents, so that's a suggestion.
Oh, our bylaws are on there. They're on the
really?
bottom of the homepage.
Oh, okay.
As well as our 990s, our yearly report from our auditors.
Yeah, I saw those up in the middle, but I didn't see the
Didn't see bylaws? I will double check for you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you're probably right. You probably know it better than me, but thank you then.
And I brought on an intern this year from U of M Dearborn, and she's working with us this summer, and she's bringing our website to be ADA compliant, because it is linked to your website, and that is something that needs to happen.
Trustee Petlishkoff?
Yeah, I just have a question that you don't need to answer right now, because you might have to do a little bit of research. But since a lot of our teachers do contribute and then are getting the money back after they've contributed towards that, are there any schools in particular that are not so successful in you said you had 28 schools this year that got grants. Are there some schools that are more successful with getting grants than others, and are there some schools that maybe are not as astute at going after these grants that we maybe need to help encourage them to participate more?
Yes. That the second is more of what's going on. So it's been a real challenge over the last few years. We're really trying to communicate with our teachers. I attend meetings for the new hires and the staff that's already here to explain to them how to apply for a grant. So we are making it more known. Our board members are liaisons to schools, so they are really working hard in going into those schools and making sure that they're answering any questions and helping lead them to the right place. We want everyone to be applying. And for us to have 28 schools is tremendous from the records I've seen over the years. And the ones that haven't gotten anything is because they have not applied for anything.
Can particular focus be placed upon those schools that haven't participated?
Absolutely.
Or have participated very little? Because I do know when I was on the board last year that you know, you have some of the same schools who are very successful, and you have some teachers who are very skilled at applying for these things. But I'd like to make sure that everybody is participating and accessing the funding, rather than, you know, I'm not trying to negate those people who are doing very well with it, but I would like to make sure that everybody gets a little piece of the pie, especially since the foundation does ask teachers to contribute. I would like to see them getting the funding back to help their classrooms.
No, I agree. We want everyone to be applying and for us to be awarding grants. I have to say, our committee, because I don't have a say in what gets funded, our board, we have a subcommittee that approves those and brings them forward. And we don't have very many. I want to say 3 were denied this last year, and that was because of the amount of dollars and some things that needed to be worked through with the district.
Yeah,
so, and I'm trying to come up with innovative ways. I'm working with Dr. Chokol and some other people for early childhood for a $25,000 grant. I'm working on getting funded for, and $2,500 for music. So I'm seeking outside assistance so that we can bring in more money. The only problem with that is that those dollars that I'm requesting for and applying for those grants have to be restricted to a specific project.
They come with strings attached.
Yeah.
Yes, they always
so, you know, I'm trying very hard to work with the district this summer to apply for a lot of those funds.
Okay, great. Well, if you can just kind of massage those few schools that maybe are not as attuned to this, then I would appreciate it.
Yeah, we're gonna do that. We just created a flow chart, so.
Oh, good,
So,
good. So
we
you
can
can
get that out
track.
to everybody.
Yeah,
So that
right.
they understand our process.
Okay.
All right,
Dr.
thank you.
Dr. Maleko?
I just want to say thank you to Chastity for leading the foundation and everyone involved, and I know a lot of people put in a lot of time, so we appreciate every month we see the donations that come in, so thank you to the entire group and all those that donate and support the cause.
Yeah.
Whether it be the Green Tie, we had a great event, the golf, or the Mardi Gras, or other events, or scholarship donations during the year. So.
And just to follow up with that, for those of us that have been fortunate enough to actually do the rotation to sit on the board for the Dearborn Ed Foundation, even though Chastity does not actually vote on who gets funded, Chastity has been the driving force going out there, seeking grants, making sure that we do have the money, and as a result of that, we hear all of those donations. I think she has like 5 jobs in one. So thank you for all you do for the
Thank you.
district as a whole through the foundation.
You're very welcome. I enjoy this position. I couldn't have asked for a better job and in a better community. So thank you all.
Thank you.